When my daughter was transferred to the intensive care unit, I wrote, "She is in critical condition. We need prayers." My brother replied with a thumbs up emoji. No one came. A month later, still sleeping in the waiting room, I checked my phone. 83 missed calls. A message from my mom, "This can't wait." I replied. And when my daughter was fighting for her life in the ICU, my brother sent a thumbs up emoji. That was the moment something in me shut down. The doctors had just told me Lily might not make it through the night. Machines were breathing for her. Tubes were everywhere. I stepped into the hallway because I felt like the walls were closing in, and I typed one sentence in the family group chat. "She is in critical condition. We need prayers." Mark replied with thumbs up. No call. No follow-up. Just that. My sister Jenna didn't respond at all. My mom read it and stayed silent for hours before finally texting me privately. "Keep us updated." That was it. No offer to come. No asking what hospital. Nothing. Lily is 8. She had collapsed at a birthday party after eating a slice of cake. At first they thought allergy. Then heart arrhythmia. Then something neurological. Every specialist had a different theory and none of them sounded certain. By the time they transferred her to the ICU, I was running on pure shock. The first night I slept in a plastic waiting room chair because visiting hours ended at midnight. I told myself someone would show up in the morning. My mom lived 40 minutes away. Mark was barely an hour out. Jenna worked remotely and could be anywhere. No one came. On day 3, I stopped checking the hallway every time footsteps echoed. On day 5, I muted the family group chat after Cheryl sent a video of her new kitchen remodel. On day 8, the social worker asked who my support system was. I said my family. I do not know why I said that. Maybe because admitting I was alone felt worse than actually being alone. Weeks blurred together. ICU rules. Coffee from the same machine. The same nurse named Paula who worked nights and always asked if I had eaten. My family continued posting about normal life. Church events. A boat trip. Mark's new truck. Not one of them walked through those hospital doors. By week 4, I stopped expecting anything from anyone. Then this morning I woke up in the waiting room with my phone dead on my chest and my neck twisted from the chair. I borrowed a charger from the nurse's station and plugged it in near the vending machines. When my screen turned on, it froze for a second before the notifications flooded in. 83 missed calls. Most from my mom. 3 from Mark. 2 from Jenna. And 1 text from my mom sent at 3:12 a.m. This can't wait. My first thought was that something had happened to one of them. My second thought was that it must not be about Lily. Because when it was about Lily, nobody came. I texted back. "What is going on?" The typing bubble appeared immediately. And the message she sent back made it clear why they had suddenly remembered I existed. My mom's reply was 3 words. "We need you." That was it. I stared at the screen waiting for the rest of it. Something about Lily. A question about her condition. Anything. Nothing came. I typed back. "I am at the hospital. Lily is still in the ICU." She called immediately. I stepped outside because the ICU doors were locked and I didn't want to take the call in front of the nurses. Mom did not ask about Lily. She went straight into it. Mark had been in an accident the night before. His new truck flipped on the highway. He was alive but he needed surgery. They were transferring him to a larger hospital. The larger hospital was mine. The same building where Lily was fighting to breathe. For a second I thought it was some kind of sick coincidence. Then my mom said something that made it worse. "We told them you work in finance. They need someone to handle paperwork. Difference. The down payment for the surgery. You're good at that stuff." I felt my jaw lock. "I have been sleeping in a waiting room for 4 weeks. He kept going. They were overwhelmed. The hospital was asking questions about coverage. Mark did not have full insurance yet because he had just changed jobs. There would be upfront cost. "We cannot cover it right now," she said. "Can you help? Just until we figure it out." I waited for her to mention Lily. She did not. Instead she said, "We know you are already at the hospital, so it makes sense for you to coordinate." Coordinate? Like I was some kind of assistant. I asked her if Mark had asked about Lily. There was a pause. "He is in a lot of pain, Diana." That was her answer. I hung up before I said something I could not take back. I went back inside the ICU. Lily's room was dim, machines humming around her. Her small hand was still warm in mine. For a moment I let myself just stand there and breathe. Then my phone buzzed again. A group text this time. "Mark, I heard you're here. Can you talk to admissions for me? Jenna. Mom says you know how to deal with this stuff. Please help. Please help. The same people who could not drive 40 minutes to see my daughter now needed me to navigate their crisis. I typed one message. My daughter has been in this ICU for 29 days. None of you came. No one responded right away. 5 minutes later my mom sent. This is different. I looked at Lily through the glass. Different how? I did not answer my mom. Instead, I walked down the hallway to the surgical wing because I already knew what they were going to do next. They would show up. Not for Lily. For Mark. And I was right. An hour later I saw them near the elevators. My mom, Jenna, and Aunt Cheryl, all standing in a tight circle like this was a family reunion. Mark was on a gurney, pale but conscious, being rolled toward pre-op. No one saw me at first. Then Jenna did. Oh good you're here. Not hello. Not how is Lily. Just relief that I was available. My mom hugged me quickly like we were meeting at a grocery store. Where is his surgeon's desk? She asked. I asked her if anyone wanted to see Lily before his surgery. There was a brief silence. Mom said, let's focus on one emergency at a time. One emergency at a time. I had been living inside one for a month. Mark looked at me from the gurney. He winced but managed to speak. Can you handle the insurance forms? They're saying I need a deposit before they can schedule the procedure. The word deposit echoed in my head. I asked how much. $45,000 up front, he said. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny but because it felt unreal. For weeks ago I had maxed out my credit card just to cover a medication Lily's insurance would not approve fast enough. I had sold my old car online to keep up with the mounting costs. I had not told anyone. They did not know because they never asked. Mom stepped closer. You have savings, Diana. You've always been responsible. Responsible. I looked at her and realized something I had avoided seeing my whole life. Responsible meant useful. It meant the one they called when things went wrong. It never meant supported. I told them I could not help financially. Jenna frowned. So you're just going to let him suffer? The sentence hit harder than it should have. I pointed down the hallway toward the ICU. My 8-year-old has been unconscious for a month. No one responded. A nurse interrupted, asking who was handling payment authorization. All three of them looked at me. I shook my head. Not me. Mom's face changed then. Not angry. More like surprised. You would really turn your back on your own brother? I thought about the thumbs up emoji. I thought about the empty waiting room chair next to me for 29 nights. I said I already know what it feels like when family turns their back. The nurse repeated the question. Who is financially responsible? And for the first time in my life I stepped back. That is when everything exploded. It exploded faster than I expected. My mom did not yell. She went quiet, which was worse. Jenna started talking all at once about how I was being emotional and this was not the time for grudges. Aunt Cheryl pulled out her phone and whispered to someone about loans. Mark was wheeled past us toward pre-op, looking confused and irritated. I walked back toward the ICU. My phone started vibrating before I even reached the doors. Group chat. Jenna. This is not the time to make a point. Mom, we raised you better than this. Mark. I would help you if it were the other way around. That last one stopped me. I went back into Lily's room and sat down. I read Mark's message again. I would help you. But he hadn't. Not with Lily. Not even with a visit. I typed one sentence. It was the other way around. No one replied. An hour later my mom called again. This time her voice sounded different. Not demanding. Calculating. The hospital will put a lien on the house if we don't cover this, she said. I blinked. What house? Your father's house. It's still in his name. If Mark's debt escalates and we co-sign anything, it could affect the estate. The estate. That house was supposed to be split between the three of us when Mom eventually passed it down. It was the only real asset our family had. And suddenly I understood. This was not just about surgery. They needed my credit. My savings. My clean financial history. If I signed, the hospital would feel safer. The interest would be lower. The risk would spread. It was not about helping Mark. It was about protecting what they planned to divide later. I asked her directly, is this about the house? She paused. We are thinking long-term. Long-term. My daughter's future was long-term. Her medical bills were long-term. Her rehabilitation if she woke up would be long-term. I told my mom something I had never said out loud before. Lily is my only long-term plan. There was silence. Then she said, so you're choosing her over your family. I looked at the machines around my child. The ventilator. The 4 pumps. The monitor that beeped steadily. Yes, I said. I am. That evening, Mark's surgery was delayed because of payment issues. I did not go downstairs. Instead, I sat by Lily and told her about the time she learned to ride her bike without training wheels. I told her how stubborn she was, how she refused to give up. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. This time it was not from my family. It was from the billing department. Your daughter's latest tests show unexpected improvement. I read it 3 times. Unexpected improvement. For the first time in weeks, something shifted. And downstairs, my family was still arguing about money. The next morning, Lily opened her eyes. Not fully. Not like in the movies. But enough. Her fingers moved first. Then her eyelids fluttered. A nurse called the doctor. Machines started making different sounds. I stood there frozen, afraid to breathe too loudly in case it was temporary. But it was not. He squeezed my hand. That single movement felt louder than any argument downstairs. By afternoon, the doctors were cautiously optimistic. They talked about reducing sedation, about neurological responses, about next steps. It was the first real hope I had been given in a month. I stepped into the hallway and finally looked at my phone again. 27 new messages. Mark's surgery had gone forward after all. My mom and Jenna had convinced an uncle to co-sign something. There were still debts, but it was handled. The tone in the messages had changed. Mom, we're glad you're there if he needs anything. Jenna, we know this is stressful for you too. Mark, guess we all have stuff going on. Stuff. I did not reply. Instead, I walked to the hospital cafeteria and bought myself a real meal for the first time in weeks. I sat alone and realized something uncomfortable. I was no longer angry. I was done. There is a difference. Anger expects change. Done means you understand nothing will. Over the next few days, Lily improved slowly. She could whisper by the end of the week. She asked why I looked so tired. I told her I had been camping indoors. My family never came upstairs to see her. Not once. Even though they were in the same building. Mark was discharged before Lily was moved out of the ICU. He sent a text. Thanks for nothing, but I hope Lily's okay. That was it. I stared at that message longer than I should have. Confirmed everything. I went into my contacts and opened the family group chat. I did not announce anything. I did not explain myself. I simply left. Then I blocked each number one by one. Mark, Jenna, Aunt Cheryl. It felt strangely quiet afterward. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just clean. 2 weeks later, Lily was transferred out of the ICU. She needed therapy and follow-ups, but she was awake. She was here. One night, while she slept in a regular hospital room, I checked my email. There was a message from my mom. She had created a new email address. Subject line: we need to talk about the house. I closed it without opening. Some people only remember you when they need something. I learned that the hard way. And I also learned something else. When everything falls apart, you find out exactly who is standing next to you. Sometimes it is just you. And that is enough. Lily came home on a Tuesday. No balloons. No parade. Just me carrying her overnight bag with one hand and holding her steady with the other as we walked up the steps to our apartment. The place looked exactly the same as the day we left for that birthday party. Fuse by the door. Her backpack on the chair. A half-finished art project on the kitchen table. It felt like we had been gone for years. Recovery was not dramatic. It was slow and inconvenient and expensive. Physical therapy twice a week. Cardiology appointments. Neurology follow-ups. Bills stacked neatly in a folder I kept in the kitchen drawer. I picked up extra freelance accounting work at night after Lily fell asleep. I sold a few pieces of jewelry I had not worn in years. I refinanced the car I barely drove anymore. I did not tell anyone. There was no one to tell. About a month after we got home, a certified letter arrived. From my mom's lawyer. It was formal and polite. It explained that due to recent family strain, my mother was restructuring her estate. The house would now be left entirely to Mark, since he had ongoing financial and medical needs. There was a paragraph about how this was not personal. How she hoped I would understand. I sat at the kitchen table and read it twice. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it finally made everything simple. The house had always been leverage. A future promise to keep us tied together. A reason to tolerate things. A reminder that family comes first. Now it was gone. And with it, the last invisible string. I did not respond to the lawyer. I did not call my mom. Instead, I opened a new savings account the next morning. Not for emergencies. Not for family obligations. For Lily. I labeled it Better Days. Months passed. Lily grew stronger. She went back to school part-time. The first afternoon she ran across the playground without stopping. I sat in my car and cried where no one could see me. My phone stayed quiet. No surprise visits. No apologies. No attempts to fix anything. And that silence stopped feeling heavy. One evening, Lily asked me something while we were making dinner. "Mom, why don't we see Grandma anymore?" I did not give her a dramatic answer. I just said, "Sometimes people show you who they are when things are hard." She thought about that and nodded like it made sense. Because it does. Life knocked me down harder than I thought I could handle. There were nights in that hospital waiting room when I felt completely alone. But I was wrong about one thing. I was not alone. I had myself. And I had my daughter's hands squeezing mine. That was enough. I do not hate my family. I simply erased them. And for the first time in my life, I am not waiting for anyone to show up.